"Sir, your card has been declined." A black mechanic stood frozen while his little daughter held a silver balloon tightly and whispered, "Daddy, no cake for my birthday." Shame tightened in his chest. He could only look at her helpless. Suddenly, from a quiet corner, a billionaire in a navy coat stood up and walked up to the counter. She handed her card to the cashier. What happened next silenced the bakery and changed the lives of both of them forever. Tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to see tomorrow's surprise. "Sir, your card has been declined. Do you have another form of payment?" Marcus Thompson stood frozen, his calloused hands trembling as the cashier repeated the words that felt like a punch to his gut. The fluorescent lights of Mason's bakery flickered as the winter wind rattled the windows. Ice crystals formed delicate patterns on the glass while inside, the scent of cinnamon rolls and fresh bread wrapped around the customers like a warm blanket. It was Christmas in Dallas, Texas, a season of warmth and southern hospitality. But for one man standing at the counter, that warmth felt a million miles away. Beside him, his daughter held a silver balloon shaped like the number 7. Her dark eyes, wide with hope, looked up at him as she whispered softly, "Daddy, does that mean no cake for my birthday?" The bakery fell silent. The cheerful chatter stopped. The clinking of cups faded. Even the gentle jazz music overhead disappeared. The air hung heavy, filled with a father's helplessness and a daughter's innocent question. Earlier that morning, Marcus Thompson, 43 years old, wore his navy blue work uniform from Wilson's Auto Repair. Stains of motor oil marked his sleeves. Single fatherhood and long days had carved lines deep into his face. Beside him walked Destiny, 7 years old that very day, wearing a second-hand dress her grandmother had sent from Louisiana and a paper crown she'd made at school. The glitter had faded, but her pride hadn't. They'd walked 3 blocks from their small apartment, her balloon bouncing in the cold December air as she talked about blowing out all 7 candles in one breath. When they reached Mason's bakery, the place buzzed with families picking up Christmas treats. Destiny pressed her nose against the glass display, eyes lighting up. "That one, Daddy, the chocolate one with the rainbow sprinkles. It's so pretty." Marcus's heart sank. The cake cost $38.50. He had $34, the last of his paycheck after rent, bills and groceries. Hoping his account might cover the rest, he handed his card to the cashier. "Jenny." The machine beeped once, twice, then came the dreaded rejection tone. Jenny's voice wavered. "Sir, your card has been declined. Do you have another form of payment?" Heat rushed to Marcus's face. He cleared his throat. "Could you maybe take off some of the decorations, make it less expensive?" Jenny shook her head softly. "I'm sorry, sir, that's already our smallest size." Destiny looked up, her voice trembling. "Daddy, it's so pretty, can we get it, please?" He knelt to her level, forcing a smile through the lump in his throat. "I'm sorry, baby, I'm so sorry, we can't get the cake today. Daddy doesn't have enough money." Her bright eyes dimmed. She simply nodded, wise beyond her years. "Okay, Daddy, it's okay." Back in the present, Marcus took Destiny's small hand and turned toward the door. The silver balloon trailed behind, bumping softly against the floor as they walked through the silent bakery. Every step felt heavier than the last. From the corner table near the window, a woman in an elegant navy blue wool coat had been watching the entire scene unfold. Her name was Catherine Reynolds, though no one in the bakery knew that. At 45 years old, she was the CEO of Reynolds Properties, one of the largest real estate development companies in Texas. She'd come to Mason's bakery for a quiet moment before heading to yet another board meeting, a brief escape from the demands of running an empire. But as she sat there with her coffee growing cold, she couldn't look away from the man and his daughter at the counter. She'd seen the panic in his eyes, heard the quiet desperation in his voice. And when that little girl, with her paper crown slightly crooked on her head, had asked if it meant no cake, something inside Catherine's chest cracked open. She'd built her company from a single property 15 years ago, and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business. She'd fought for every dollar, every contract, every success. But 5 years ago, everything had changed. Her daughter Emily, just 7 years old, had been killed by a drunk driver on her way home from school. Catherine's husband, unable to cope with the grief, had left her 6 months after the funeral, and Catherine had thrown herself into work, using her company as a shield against the unbearable pain of losing everything that mattered. For 5 years she'd been going through the motions, building wealth she had no one to share with. achieving success that felt hollow. She'd forgotten what it felt like to connect with another human being, to care about something beyond quarterly reports and profit margins. Until this moment, until she saw that little girl in her paper crown, the same age Emily had been. Until she saw a father fighting to give his daughter something special, just like Catherine had once fought for Emily. As Marcus and Destiny turned to leave, Catherine found herself standing before she'd even made a conscious decision to move. Her chair scraped against the tile floor. Every head in the bakery turned toward her, but she didn't care. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice clear and firm. Marcus froze mid-step. He turned slowly, his hand still holding Destiny's, and looked at the elegant woman approaching them. Her light brown hair was cut in a sophisticated bob. Her posture spoke of confidence and success, but her blue eyes were soft with something that looked like understanding. "Did I hear correctly that you were canceling the cake?" Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't need pity. He didn't need charity. He had his pride, even if that was all he had left. "Yes, ma'am, we're fine. Thank you." Catherine stepped closer, her heels clicking softly on the floor. She looked down at Destiny, who was staring up at her with curious eyes. "Is today your birthday, sweetheart?" Destiny nodded, her finger pointing to the paper crown on her head. "Yes, ma'am. I'm 7 today. I made this crown at school." Catherine felt her throat tighten. 7 years old, the same age Emily had been. She pushed away the wave of grief, and focused on the present moment. She turned to Marcus, her voice gentle but firm. "Please, let me buy the cake for her." Marcus shook his head immediately, his pride flaring up like a defense mechanism. "No ma'am, I can't accept that. We're fine, thank you, but no." Catherine reached into her purse, pulled out her credit card, and before Marcus could protest further, she walked to the counter and handed it to Jenny. "Ring up the chocolate cake with rainbow sprinkles, please, and add a box of birthday candles." "Ma'am, please," Marcus started, his voice cracking. "You don't have to do this." Catherine turned to look at him, and what Marcus saw in her eyes wasn't pity. It was something else, something that looked like she needed this as much as they did. "I know I don't have to," she said softly, "but I want to. Everyone deserves a birthday cake, especially a beautiful young lady in a crown." Destiny's eyes lit up like stars. She looked at her father, then at Catherine, then at the cake Jenny was carefully placing in a white box. "Daddy, the nice lady is buying my cake." Marcus felt his composure crumbling. His eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. "Not here, not in front of all these people." But his voice, when it came out, was barely a whisper. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." Catherine signed the receipt, then knelt down to Destiny's level, her expensive coat pooling on the bakery floor. She adjusted the little girl's paper crown gently. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Make a wish when you blow out your candles tonight, okay?" Destiny threw her arms around Catherine's neck in a spontaneous hug. Catherine froze for a moment, then wrapped her arms around the little girl, her eyes closing against the wave of emotion that threatened to overwhelm her. For just a second, she let herself remember what it felt like to hold a 7-year-old girl, to feel small arms around her neck, to matter to a child. When she stood up, she hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. She handed it to Marcus. "If you ever need anything, call this number. I mean it." Marcus took the card with trembling fingers and looked at it. His eyes widened as he read the name. Catherine Reynolds, CEO Reynolds Properties. His mouth opened but no words came out. He looked from the card to her face, comprehension dawning. Catherine smiled gently. "Happy birthday, Destiny. Enjoy your cake." And then she walked out of the bakery, leaving behind a stunned crowd, a speechless father, and one very happy little girl holding a white bakery box like it was the greatest treasure in the world. That night, Marcus and Destiny celebrated in their small 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of Dallas. The place wasn't much. Worn carpet, walls that needed painting, furniture from thrift stores and family hand-me-downs. But when Destiny blew out her 7 candles, her face glowing in the candlelight, their little apartment felt like a palace. "Make a wish, baby girl," Marcus whispered. Destiny closed her eyes tight, her lips moving silently. Then she took a deep breath, and blew out all 7 candles in one magnificent puff. She opened her eyes and grinned. "I did it, Daddy. I got them all. What did you wish for?" "I can't tell you or it won't come true, but it was a good wish." After she went to bed, clutching her remaining piece of cake in a container she'd insisted on keeping beside her pillow. Marcus sat at their small kitchen table. The business card Catherine Reynolds had given him lay in front of him, the expensive cardstock, catching the light from the overhead bulb. Catherine Reynolds, CEO Reynolds Properties, a phone number, an email address. His first instinct was to throw it away. He didn't need handouts. He didn't need anyone's pity. He'd been taking care of himself and Destiny for 3 years now, ever since her mother had left them. Since Angela had decided that being a wife and mother wasn't the life she wanted and disappeared into the night, leaving only a note on the kitchen counter. He'd been angry at first, then heartbroken, then just tired, so tired of working 10-hour days at Wilson's Auto Repair for barely enough to cover rent and bills, tired of choosing between buying Destiny new shoes or paying the electric bill on time, tired of seeing that look in his daughter's eyes when she wanted something simple, something every child should have, and he couldn't provide it. His fingers traced the embossed letters on the card, but something in Catherine's eyes had stayed with him. When she'd hugged Destiny, Marcus had seen something raw and real in her expression, not pity, not superiority, just pure, genuine emotion, like she'd needed that hug as much as Destiny had. Marcus carefully folded the business card and put it in his wallet. He didn't know if he'd ever use it, but he couldn't bring himself to throw it away either. The next morning started the same as always. Wake up at 5:30, make breakfast, get Destiny ready for school, drop her off at Jefferson Elementary, drive to Wilson's Auto Repair, clock in at 8, same routine, different day. Except this day, around 10:30 in the morning, his boss, Bill Wilson, a heavy-set man in his 60s with grease permanently stained under his fingernails, called Marcus into his cluttered office. "Marcus, we need to talk." Those 4 words, the words no employee ever wants to hear. Marcus's stomach dropped as he stood in the doorway, still holding a wrench in his oil-stained hands. Bill sighed heavily and leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. "You're a good mechanic, Marcus, one of the best I've had. But business is slow, real slow. Holiday season usually picks up, but not this year. I've got to cut hours, and with your situation, being hourly, well, I'm going to have to reduce you to part-time, 20 hours a week instead of 40. Marcus felt the floor drop out from under him. 20 hours a week, half his income, gone, just like that. "Bill, I need those hours. I have a daughter. I know, son. I'm sorry. If things pick up after the new year, I'll bring you back to full-time. But right now, this is all I can do." Marcus stood there numb. He thought about the rent due in 2 weeks, the electric bill, food, Destiny's after-school care that cost almost as much as he made in a day. His mind raced through calculations, trying to make numbers work that wouldn't work no matter how he arranged them. "When does this start?" "Monday. 4 days from now." "I'm real sorry, Marcus." Marcus nodded once, turned, and walked out. He finished his shift in a daze, his hands working on autopilot while his mind spiraled through worst-case scenarios. That evening, after Destiny was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table again. The business card was still in his wallet. He took it out, stared at it for a long time. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. Not when his daughter's welfare was at stake. Not when he was facing the real possibility of losing their apartment, of not being able to feed her properly, of failing her in every way that mattered. His hands shook as he picked up his phone. It was 9 in the evening, too late to call, but he could send an email. He typed slowly, deleting and rewriting sentences multiple times before he finally had something that didn't sound completely desperate. "Miss Reynolds, this is Marcus Thompson. You bought my daughter Destiny a birthday cake at Mason's Bakery yesterday. You gave me your card and said to call if I needed anything. I don't know if you meant it, but my hours just got cut to part-time, and I'm looking for full-time work. I'm a hard worker, good with mechanical systems, electrical, plumbing, and problem solving. If there's any kind of position available at your company, I'd be grateful for a chance to prove myself. Thank you again for your kindness to my daughter. It meant more than you know. Sincerely, Marcus Thompson." He hit send before he could change his mind. Then he put his head in his hands, and tried not to think about what he'd do if she didn't respond. Catherine Reynolds sat in her corner office on the 23rd floor of the Reynolds Properties building, looking out at the Dallas skyline as the sun rose over the city. She'd been awake since 4 in the morning, as she always was. Sleep had never come easy to her, not in the 5 years since she'd lost Emily. The holidays were the worst. December was filled with memories of Emily's excitement about Christmas, her delight in decorating cookies, her carefully written lists to Santa. This month, 5 years ago, Catherine had been planning Emily's 8th birthday party. 2 days before Christmas, a winter wonderland themed with snowflakes and hot chocolate, and all of Emily's friends. But Emily never made it to 8. A drunk driver ran a red light on December 18th. Emily had been walking home from school with her best friend's mother. The other woman survived with minor injuries. Emily didn't. Catherine's marriage hadn't survived the grief. Her husband blamed himself for not picking Emily up that day. Catherine blamed the driver. They blamed each other. 6 months after the funeral, he left. Catherine threw herself into work because it was the only thing that kept her from drowning. For 5 years, she'd been running on empty, building a company, making money, achieving success that meant nothing because the person she'd been building it for was gone. Then yesterday, she'd seen that little girl in the bakery, 7 years old, in a paper crown, looking at a birthday cake with pure joy, and something inside Catherine had cracked open. For the first time in 5 years, she'd felt something other than numbness. She'd given Marcus her card on impulse, not really expecting him to use it, but hoping that maybe, just maybe, she could help someone. That maybe Emily's death didn't have to be completely meaningless if Catherine could honor her memory by helping other children. At 7:15 in the morning, she checked her email and saw a message from Marcus Thompson. Her heart rate quickened as she read it. His words were careful, dignified. He wasn't begging. He was asking for an opportunity to work, to earn. She read the part about his daughter, about what the cake had meant, and felt tears sting her eyes. She immediately called her director of operations, James Morrison. James, I need you to create a position in our facilities management department, someone who can oversee maintenance and repairs for our properties, full-time, full benefits, salary, not hourly, $45,000 a year to start. James, used to Catherine's occasional unconventional requests, simply replied, "Consider it done. Do you have someone in mind?" "I do. His name is Marcus Thompson. I'll forward you his email. Set up an interview for this afternoon if he's available." "Catherine," James said carefully, "is this the man from the bakery? The one you told me about?" Catherine had called James yesterday after leaving Mason's bakery. She'd been crying in her car, overwhelmed by the encounter, and James was one of the few people she still talked to about personal matters. He'd been her operations director since the beginning, and he'd watched her grieve Emily's loss. "Yes, it's him. Then I'll take good care of him. I'll call him within the hour." Catherine hung up and immediately replied to Marcus's email. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for reaching out. I absolutely meant my offer. I have a position that might be a good fit for your skills. Our Director of Operations, James Morrison, will be contacting you shortly to schedule an interview. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Best regards, Catherine Reynolds." She hit send and leaned back in her chair. For the first time in years, she felt something that might have been hope. Marcus was in the middle of replacing brake pads when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again, and again. During his lunch break, he finally checked it. 3 emails, one from Catherine Reynolds, one from someone named James Morrison, one from Human Resources at Reynolds Properties, asking him to fill out an application. His hands started shaking so badly he almost dropped his phone. He read Catherine's email twice, then 3 times, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. An interview. An actual interview. At Reynolds Properties, he called the number James Morrison had provided. A professional voice answered on the second ring. "Mr. Thompson, I'm glad you called. Miss Reynolds has told me about you. Are you available for an interview today at 3? Today? Marcus's mind raced. He'd have to leave work early. He didn't have interview clothes. His only good shirt needed ironing. But none of that mattered. "Yes sir, I'll be there." "Excellent. I'll see you then." Marcus hung up and stared at his phone. For the first time in 3 years, he felt something that might have been hope. The Reynolds Properties building was intimidating. All glass and steel, reaching up into the Dallas sky like a monument to success. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, looking up at it, feeling distinctly out of place in his ironed shirt and clean jeans. This was the best he had. He'd showered during his lunch break at work, used the emergency change of clothes he kept in his locker, and driven straight here. The lobby was even more intimidating. Marble floors, high ceilings, a waterfall feature along one wall. Everyone in expensive suits, moving with purpose and confidence. Marcus felt like an imposter, but he walked to the receptionist's desk anyway, his work boots squeaking slightly on the polished floor. "I'm Marcus Thompson. I have a 3 o'clock interview with James Morrison." The receptionist, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled warmly at him. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. Please have a seat. Mr. Morrison will be with you shortly." Marcus sat in one of the leather chairs in the waiting area, his hands clasped between his knees. He watched people come and go, all of them looking like they belonged here, all of them looking like success. "Mr. Thompson." Marcus looked up to see a man in his early 50s, graying hair, sharp suit, extending his hand with a genuine smile. "I'm James Morrison. It's good to meet you. Come on back." The interview wasn't what Marcus expected. James didn't grill him about his qualifications or make him feel inadequate. Instead, they talked about Marcus's experience as a mechanic, his skills with electrical and plumbing systems, his ability to troubleshoot problems. James asked about his daughter, about his situation, treating him like a person rather than just another applicant. "Marcus, I'm going to be straight with you," James said after 45 minutes. "Miss Reynolds doesn't make recommendations lightly. The position is full-time facilities manager, salary of $45,000 a year, full health and dental benefits, paid vacation, and a regular 9-to-5 schedule. The job involves overseeing maintenance and repairs for our residential and commercial properties. You'd have a team of 3 maintenance technicians reporting to you, and you'd report to me. Based on your experience and this conversation, I think you'd be a great fit. How does that sound?" Marcus felt his throat close up. 45,000. That was almost double what he made at the auto shop. Benefits, a schedule that meant he could actually be home with Destiny in the evenings. That sounds, he had to stop and clear his throat. "That sounds like more than I could have hoped for, sir." "Good. Can you start Monday?" "Monday, 4 days from now." Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. James stood and extended his hand again. "Welcome to Reynolds Properties, Marcus. I think you're going to do great things here." As Marcus walked toward the elevators in a daze, his phone still clutched in his hand, he heard a voice behind him. "Marcus." He turned to see Catherine Reynolds standing near the lobby reception area, elegant in a charcoal gray suit, her blue eyes warm with something that might have been pride. "Congratulations," she said simply. Marcus walked toward her, his emotions finally overwhelming the dam he'd built to hold them back. His eyes burned with tears he couldn't stop. "Miss Reynolds, I can't." His voice broke. "You don't even know me. Why are you doing this?" Catherine's own eyes were suspiciously bright. "Because I saw you in that bakery trying to give your daughter a birthday, because I saw the kind of father you are." She paused, her voice softening. 5 years ago I had a daughter, her name was Emily. She was 7 years old, just like Destiny, and I lost her. A drunk driver." Marcus's breath caught. "I spent 5 years asking why. Why her? Why us? Why anything?" Catherine's voice trembled slightly, "And then I saw Destiny in that bakery wearing her paper crown and looking at that cake like it was the most magical thing in the world. And for the first time since Emily died, I felt something other than grief. I felt like maybe there was still good I could do in the world. Maybe I couldn't bring Emily back, but I could help another little girl have the life she deserves. I could help a father who's trying so hard to do right by his child. That's why I'm doing this, Marcus." Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I won't let you down. I promise you I won't let you down." "I know you won't," she said softly. "Now go home and tell that beautiful daughter of yours that her daddy just got a new job." Marcus's first 3 months at Reynolds Properties were the hardest work of his life. Not because the job was difficult, though it certainly challenged him in new ways, but because he felt he had to prove himself every single day. He arrived early, stayed late, and tackled every problem with an intensity that impressed even the most skeptical members of the facilities team. There were whispers at first. He could hear them in the break room, feel them in the sideways glances from some of the other employees. The man Catherine Reynolds had handpicked, the charity case. The guy who got the job because of a sob story instead of qualifications. Marcus ignored the whispers and let his work speak for itself. In his second month he discovered that 3 of the company's largest residential properties were using outdated heating systems that were costing thousands in wasted energy. He spent his evenings researching more efficient options, created detailed proposals with cost-benefit analyses and presented them to James Morrison. "If we upgrade these systems, we'll recoup the investment in 18 months, Marcus explained, showing James the numbers. "After that, we're looking at annual savings of about $40,000 across the 3 properties." James was impressed. He brought Marcus to present the proposal to Catherine and the finance team. Catherine listened carefully, asked sharp questions and approved the project. "This is exactly the kind of thinking we need," she told Marcus afterward. "You didn't just identify a problem, you solved it." But Marcus's biggest challenge came in early March during one of the coldest weeks Dallas had seen in years. A massive winter storm hit the city and the heating system at Riverside Towers, one of Reynolds Properties' largest residential buildings housing over 200 families, failed completely at 8 in the evening. Marcus got the emergency call while he and Destiny were working on her science project about the solar system. She'd been carefully painting Saturn's rings on a styrofoam ball. "I have to go, baby. There's a building full of families without heat and it's 20 degrees outside." Destiny looked at her project, then at her father. She put down her paintbrush. "Then I'm coming with you. You might need help." Marcus started to protest, then saw the determination in her 7-year-old eyes. She was her father's daughter. "Okay, bundle up warm. And bring your homework." When they arrived at Riverside Towers, the lobby was chaotic. Families with young children huddled together, some wrapped in blankets. Elderly residents looked worried. The building manager, a frantic woman named Patricia Hayes, nearly cried with relief when she saw Marcus. "Thank God you're here. The regular contractor can't come until tomorrow morning at the earliest. We've got families with babies, elderly residents with health conditions. I don't know what to do. Some people are talking about going to hotels, but not everyone can afford that." Marcus set Destiny up at a table in the lobby with her homework and a thermos of hot chocolate he'd brought from home. Then he went to assess the situation. The main boiler had a cracked heat exchanger, something that couldn't be fixed tonight. But Marcus remembered seeing in the building plans that there was an old backup heating system, installed decades ago but disconnected when the main system was upgraded. He spent the next hour in the basement mechanical room tracing pipes and valves, figuring out how the backup system worked. It was complicated, outdated, and hadn't been used in years. But Marcus had spent 20 years working with complex mechanical systems. He understood how things connected. At 10 o'clock he came up to the lobby, his shirt damp with sweat despite the cold. "Mrs. Hayes, I can get the backup system running. It'll take a few hours and it won't heat as efficiently as the main system, but it'll keep everyone warm until the contractor can do permanent repairs tomorrow. Can you really do that?" "Yes, ma'am, but I need to work through the night. Is there a way Destiny can stay warm and safe while I work?" Patricia immediately arranged for Destiny to sit in the building's community room with 2 other families. One of the mothers, a kind woman named Lisa, gave Destiny a blanket and sat with her. Marcus worked through the night. The backup boiler was ancient and temperamental, but he patiently cleaned valves, replaced worn gaskets with temporary fixes, and slowly coaxed the system back to life. By 2 in the morning, heat was flowing through the building. By 3, the temperature in the apartments was rising. When he finally came upstairs, exhausted and covered in grime, he found Destiny asleep on a couch in the community room, wrapped in a blanket. Patricia Hayes was sitting nearby, keeping watch. "You did it," she said softly, tears in her eyes. "You saved us." "Just doing my job, ma'am." "No, this was beyond your job. You could have waited until morning, let people figure out hotels, but you stayed all night to make sure families could sleep in their own homes. That's not just a job. That's caring." The next morning, word spread quickly through Reynolds Properties about what Marcus had done. By noon, Catherine had received calls from grateful residents. By the end of the day, she'd heard the full story from Patricia Hayes. She called Marcus into her office late Friday afternoon. "I heard about Riverside Towers," she said as he sat down, still looking tired from his all-night work session. "Just part of the job, Miss Reynolds." "Catherine, please. After what you did, I think we're past Miss Reynolds." She smiled. "And it wasn't just part of the job. You went above and beyond. You brought your daughter with you so you wouldn't have to choose between work and being there for her. You worked through the night to help people you'd never met. That's the kind of person this company needs. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the praise. You gave me this opportunity. I'm just trying to prove I deserve it. Marcus, you proved that in your first week. Now you're proving your leadership material. Catherine leaned forward. James and I have been discussing creating a new position, Director of Facilities Operations. It would mean overseeing all maintenance operations across our properties, managing a larger team and working more directly with me and the executive team. 20% salary increase, better benefits package. I'd like you to consider it. Marcus stared at her, speechless. I know you've only been here 3 months. Catherine continued. But talent is talent. And you've shown more initiative and care in 3 months than some people show in 3 years. What do you think? I think, Marcus said slowly, I think I'd be honored, and terrified. But mostly honored. Catherine smiled. Good. The best leaders are always a little terrified. Keeps you humble and working hard. As Marcus left her office, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, but pride. Pride in his work, pride in himself. That evening he took Destiny to her favorite pizza place to celebrate. Daddy, why are we celebrating? She asked, spinning in her chair with excitement. Because your daddy got a promotion. Which means we're going to be okay, baby girl. More than okay. Destiny grinned. I knew that lady in the bakery was magic. She made both our wishes come true. What do you mean both? Remember I told you I made a wish when I blew out my candles. I wished that you wouldn't be sad anymore. That you'd find a job that made you happy. And it came true. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. His daughter had wished for his happiness, not toys or games or things for herself. You know what, Destiny? You're the magic one. You're the reason I keep trying. The reason I never give up. That's what daddies do, she said wisely, taking a big bite of pizza. They never give up on their kids. 6 months after starting at Reynolds Properties, Marcus had settled into his role as Director of Facilities Operations. He built a strong team, implemented new efficiency protocols, and earned the respect of everyone he worked with. The whispers about being a charity case had long since stopped. It was a Thursday afternoon in late June when Catherine stopped by his office. Marcus, do you and Destiny have plans for the 4th of July weekend? He looked up from the maintenance schedule he'd been reviewing. Just the usual, probably take her to watch fireworks at Fair Park. Why? Catherine looked uncharacteristically nervous. I have a lake house about an hour north of here. I haven't been there in 5 years, since before Emily died. I was thinking it's time to go back, and well, I was wondering if you and Destiny would like to come spend the holiday weekend there. Nothing fancy, just relaxing by the lake, maybe grilling some burgers. I know it's an unusual invitation, but we'd love to. Marcus interrupted. Destiny's been asking if she could meet you properly, not just wave hello in the hallway. And honestly, I think it would be good for all of us. Catherine's relief was visible. Really, I wasn't sure if it was appropriate given that I'm your boss. Catherine, you're more than my boss. You're important to us. To both of us. She smiled, and for a moment Marcus saw past the CEO exterior to the lonely woman underneath. Thank you. That means more than you know. The following Saturday morning, Marcus and Destiny drove out to Lake Texoma. Destiny was practically bouncing in her seat with excitement, wearing her favorite yellow sundress and clutching a thank you card she'd made for Catherine. Is the lake house big, Daddy? I don't know, baby. But remember, it's not about the house. It's about spending time with Miss Catherine. When they pulled up to the address Catherine had given them, Marcus was surprised. The lake house was actually a modest cabin, charming but simple. Wooden deck overlooking the water, a small dock with a rowboat tied to it, wildflowers growing in cheerful chaos around the property. Catherine came out to greet them, looking different than Marcus had ever seen her. She wore jeans and a simple blue t-shirt, her hair in a ponytail, her face free of makeup. She looked younger, more relaxed. Welcome, she called out. I hope you like rustic. There's no Wi-Fi here. No Wi-Fi, Destiny said with mock horror, then grinned. Good. Daddy's always telling me I spend too much time on my tablet anyway. Catherine laughed, and Marcus realized it was the first time he'd heard her really laugh. I like this kid. Come on, let me show you around. The cabin was cozy inside. 2 bedrooms, a living room with a stone fireplace, a kitchen that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1980s. But everything was clean and welcoming. Emily and I used to come here every summer, Catherine said softly as she showed them around. My husband never liked it much, said it was too isolated. But Emily loved it. She loved catching fireflies at night and swimming in the lake. Destiny looked at a framed photo on the mantel. It showed a younger Catherine with a little girl who had her mother's blue eyes and blonde hair. Is that Emily? Yes, sweetheart, that's my daughter. She's pretty. I bet she was really nice. Catherine's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. She was kind and funny and so full of life, like you. They spent the afternoon by the lake. Marcus grilled hamburgers and hot dogs while Catherine taught Destiny how to skip stones across the water. Destiny couldn't quite get the hang of it, but she laughed every time her stone plopped into the lake instead of skipping. I'm terrible at this, she giggled. You're doing great, Catherine encouraged. It takes practice. Emily couldn't do it either until she was 8. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat on the deck eating watermelon and watching boats drift by on the lake. Miss Catherine, Destiny asked, do you get lonely living by yourself? Destiny, Marcus said sharply, that's not appropriate. But Catherine held up her hand. No, it's okay, it's an honest question. She looked at Destiny. Yes, sweetheart, I get lonely sometimes. After Emily died and my husband left, I threw myself into work because being busy meant I didn't have to think about being alone. But lately I've been realizing that being busy and being fulfilled are 2 different things. What's fulfilled mean? It means having people in your life who matter, having connections that make you happy. Destiny nodded seriously. Like how Daddy says I fulfill his heart. Marcus felt his throat tighten. That's exactly right, baby. That evening, after they'd caught fireflies in mason jars and released them, after Destiny had fallen asleep in one of the guest bedrooms, Marcus and Catherine sat on the deck with glasses of iced tea, listening to the sound of the lake lapping against the shore. Thank you for coming, Catherine said quietly. I wasn't sure I could come back here. Too many memories. But having you and Destiny here made it feel less haunted by the past, more like a place that can hold new memories too. Thank you for inviting us. Destiny hasn't stopped smiling all day. And honestly, neither have I. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars come out. Can I tell you something? Catherine said. When I saw you in that bakery, I wasn't just seeing you and Destiny. I was seeing myself 20 years ago. I was a single mother once, did you know that? Marcus shook his head. I was 25 when I got pregnant with Emily. Her father took off before she was born. I worked 3 jobs to support us. Waited tables, cleaned offices at night, did data entry during the day. I was exhausted all the time, and I felt like I was failing her every single day. Then I saved enough to buy my first property, a run-down duplex. I renovated it myself, learned everything from YouTube videos and library books, rented out 1 unit and lived in the other with Emily. That's how Reynolds Properties started. I had no idea. Not many people do. By the time I met my husband, I'd built the company into something successful. I had money, respect, the whole package, but I never forgot what it felt like to count pennies and hope they'd stretch far enough. That's why I recognized that look on your face in the bakery, because I'd worn that look myself for years. Marcus felt a wave of understanding wash over him. You weren't just helping us, you were honoring your own journey, and Emily's memory. She never got to grow up and do great things, but maybe, in some small way, helping you and Destiny means her life still has purpose, still creates ripples of good in the world. Catherine, I don't know if anyone's told you this, but you're doing an amazing job of keeping her memory alive, not just by helping us, but by being someone who makes the world better. Emily would be so proud of you. Catherine wiped tears from her eyes. Thank you, I needed to hear that. They talked long into the night, sharing stories about their children, their struggles, their hopes, and somewhere in those hours, their relationship shifted from employer-employee to something deeper. Not romance, but real friendship, a connection between two people who understood loss and resilience, who'd both fought hard to give their children better lives. The next morning, Destiny woke them both up early, bouncing with excitement. "Can we go out in the rowboat, please?" Marcus looked at Catherine. "Is it safe?" "Perfectly safe, let's do it." The three of them piled into the small rowboat, Marcus rowing while Catherine sat in the back and Destiny perched in the front like a ship's captain. The morning sun sparkled on the water, and for a moment they looked like what they were slowly becoming, a family, not by blood, but by choice. "This is the best 4th of July ever," Destiny declared, trailing her hand in the water. Catherine caught Marcus's eye and smiled. It was the best holiday either of them had had in years. 1 year after that day in the bakery, Destiny was in 2nd grade and thriving. She'd grown more confident, her natural creativity blossoming through the art classes that Marcus could now afford. She loved drawing and painting, and her teachers said she had real talent. But in October of her 2nd grade year, things started to change. It began with small things. Destiny coming home quieter than usual. Her normally bright chatter at dinner replaced with one-word answers. Marcus noticed but assumed it was normal child development, until the day he got a call from her school counselor, Mrs. Patricia Shaw. "Mr. Thompson, I need to speak with you about Destiny. Can you come in this afternoon?" Marcus's heart dropped. "Is she okay? Is she hurt?" "She's not physically hurt, but there's a situation we need to address. Please come in as soon as you can." Marcus left work immediately, his mind racing through possibilities. When he arrived at the school, he found Destiny sitting outside the counselor's office, her eyes red from crying. She was holding the paper crown she'd made for her birthday the year before, now worn and bent but still carefully preserved. "Baby, what happened?" Destiny threw her arms around him and burst into fresh tears. Mrs. Shaw invited them both into her office and gently explained the situation. "There's been an incident of bullying. 3 girls in Destiny's class have been making comments about her clothes, her appearance," and Mrs. Shaw paused, clearly uncomfortable, "about the fact that she doesn't have a mother, and that you work a blue-collar job. They've been excluding her from activities and spreading rumors." Marcus felt anger surge through him, hot and protective, but he kept his voice calm. "How long has this been going on?" "At least a month that we know of. Destiny didn't report it until today, when the girls took her birthday crown and threw it in the trash, saying it was babyish. That's when she finally told her teacher what had been happening." Marcus looked at his daughter, who was staring at her hands in her lap, and his heart broke. He'd worked so hard to give her a good life, to prove that a single father could raise a daughter well, and now she was being targeted for things that weren't her fault. "What's being done about these girls?" "They're being disciplined according to school policy, but Mr. Thompson, I'm more concerned about Destiny right now. This has affected her confidence significantly." That evening, after a quiet dinner, Marcus sat with Destiny on their worn couch and had the hardest conversation he'd had since Angela left. "Baby, talk to me. What did those girls say to you?" Destiny's voice was small. "They said my clothes are ugly because they're from thrift stores. They said I'm weird because I don't have a mom like normal kids. They said you're just a maintenance man and that's why we're poor." She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "Daddy, are we poor? Is there something wrong with us?" Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. He pulled Destiny into his lap, holding her tight. "Listen to me carefully. There is nothing wrong with us, nothing. Those girls are being cruel because somewhere inside, they're hurting or scared or insecure, and the only way they know how to feel better is by making someone else feel worse. That's not about you, baby, that's about them. But what they said about my clothes and you being a maintenance man, I'm not a maintenance man anymore, I'm director of facilities operations. But you know what, even when I was a mechanic, there was no shame in that. I worked hard, I provided for you. I kept us safe and fed and housed. There's honor in honest work, no matter what kind of work it is." He tilted her chin up so she had to look at him. "And yes, we buy clothes from thrift stores sometimes. But that's being smart with money, not being poor. We have a home.
We have food, we have each other. We have Miss Catherine, who cares about us. We're rich in all the ways that matter, but they have brand new everything. Their parents drive fancy cars, they go on big vacations, and I bet their parents are so busy making money that they don't have time to help with homework every night. I bet they don't know their kids' favorite songs or what makes them laugh. Money can buy a lot of things, Destiny, but it can't buy what we have. Love, time, connection. Those girls might have more stuff than you, but they don't have what you have. Destiny was quiet for a moment, processing. What do I do, Daddy? How do I make it stop? You can't control what other people say or do. You can only control how you respond. And I think the best response is to be so completely yourself, so confident in who you are, that their opinions become irrelevant. How do I do that? Marcus thought for a moment. What makes you happy? What do you love doing? Art. I love drawing and painting. Then pour yourself into that. Get so good at what you love that you know your value has nothing to do with what they think, and find friends who appreciate you for who you really are, not what brands you wear or whether you have a mom or two parents. Over the next weeks, Marcus watched his daughter transform. Instead of retreating into herself, Destiny doubled down on her art. She started staying after school for extra art club time. She created piece after piece, each one more confident than the last. Catherine noticed the change during one of their now regular Sunday dinners. Marcus had started coming to Catherine's house once a week with Destiny, sharing a meal and conversation. It had become something they all looked forward to. Destiny seems quieter lately, Catherine mentioned to Marcus while Destiny was drawing at the kitchen table. Is everything okay? Marcus explained about the bullying. Catherine's expression darkened. Those girls said what about you, about your work? It doesn't matter. We're handling it. It does matter. Marcus, you're one of the most valuable people at my company. You've saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars with your innovations. You've created systems that other companies are trying to copy. You're brilliant at what you do. Thank you, but Destiny needs to learn that our value doesn't come from others' opinions. Even yours, though I appreciate it. Catherine nodded slowly, then walked over to where Destiny was drawing. What are you working on, sweetheart? Destiny showed her a drawing of 3 figures, a man, a woman, and a little girl holding hands by a lake. It's us, from the 4th of July, that was one of my favorite days ever. Catherine felt tears prick her eyes. Can I ask you something, Destiny? These girls at school who are being mean, do they know about your art? Some of them do. They say art is stupid and won't make me any money. Well, they're wrong, but more than that, they're missing the point. Art isn't about money, it's about expression, about creating beauty, about sharing how you see the world, and you're really talented. Destiny looked up hopefully. Really, in fact I have an idea. Catherine looked at Marcus. Reynolds Properties has a big charity gala every December. We always auction off items to raise money for local causes. What if Destiny created a piece of art specifically for the auction? We could display it at the gala, auction it off, and show the whole city how talented she is. Destiny's eyes went wide. Really, people would want my art. I think they'd love it. What do you say? Destiny looked at her father, who nodded encouragingly. Okay, I'll do it. I'll make the best painting I can. Over the next 2 months, Destiny worked on her masterpiece. She decided to paint the lake house, the place where she'd felt most happy and safe. She worked on it every day after school, refining details, mixing colors, pouring all her emotion onto the canvas. The girls at school continued their occasional mean comments, but Destiny had found her armor. She had a purpose. She had people who believed in her. Their words still stung sometimes, but they couldn't break her. The night of the gala arrived. Marcus rented a suit, his first ever. Destiny wore a beautiful green dress that Catherine had bought her. When they arrived at the hotel ballroom where the event was being held, Destiny gasped. Her painting was displayed on an easel near the auction tables, professionally framed, with a small plaque that read, Lake House Memories by Destiny Thompson, age 8. Throughout the evening people stopped to admire it. They asked Destiny about her inspiration, her technique. She answered each question with growing confidence, explaining how the painting showed the place where she felt most at peace. When the auction began, Marcus watched in amazement as people bid on his daughter's artwork. The price climbed higher and higher. $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Finally, a well-dressed woman won the bidding at $4,500. Destiny stood there, stunned, watching the woman write a check to the charity. The woman came over to them. "Are you the artist?" Destiny nodded, speechless. "I'm Margaret Harrison. I collect art from emerging talents, particularly young artists. This piece is extraordinary. You have a real gift, young lady. I hope you'll continue developing it." After Margaret walked away, Destiny turned to her father and Catherine, tears streaming down her face. "People like my art. They really like it." Catherine knelt down and hugged her. "Of course they do. Because it's beautiful and real and full of heart. Just like you." That night, as Marcus tucked Destiny into bed, she was still glowing with pride.
"Daddy, those girls at school said I was weird and poor and that my art was stupid. But tonight people paid real money for my painting. They saw value in what I made. That's right, baby. And this is the lesson I want you to never forget. The people who try to make you feel small are usually the ones who feel small themselves. The people who recognize your value are the ones worth listening to. Miss Catherine recognizes my value, and so do you. We do, and we always will." Destiny was quiet for a moment. "Daddy, I'm glad Mommy left." Marcus was startled. "What? If Mommy hadn't left, we wouldn't have been at that bakery. We wouldn't have met Miss Catherine. You wouldn't have your job. I wouldn't have sold my painting. Sometimes bad things happen so good things can happen later, right?" Marcus felt tears slide down his cheeks. His 8-year-old daughter had just articulated something he'd been struggling to understand for years. "Yeah, baby. Sometimes that's exactly how it works." 2 years after that day in the bakery, Marcus had been promoted to vice president of operations, becoming the youngest person ever to hold that position at Reynolds Properties. The Second Chances program, which had started as a simple idea to help one man, had grown into something remarkable. Catherine had formalized the program 6 months after hiring Marcus, creating a structure to identify and hire talented individuals who were facing circumstances that made traditional employment difficult. Single parents struggling with childcare, people with gaps in their employment history due to family obligations, veterans transitioning to civilian work, anyone who had the skills but lacked the opportunity. The program had helped 43 people in its first 18 months. Retention rates were extraordinary, 97%. Program participants weren't just meeting expectations, they were exceeding them. And Marcus had become the program's unofficial mentor, helping each new hire navigate the transition. But not everyone was happy about it. Richard Hastings had been on the Reynolds Properties board for 12 years. He was a man who believed in profit margins, shareholder value, and bottom lines above all else. To him, the Second Chances program was wasteful sentimentality. The confrontation came at a quarterly board meeting in late October. Catherine was presenting the company's performance, which was strong. Revenue up 15%, property portfolio expanding, tenant satisfaction at record highs, but Hastings wasn't impressed. "Miss Reynolds, I have concerns about the Second Chances program. We've invested over $3 million in the past 2 years. That's money that could have been returned to shareholders or invested in property acquisitions. I move that we audit the program's return on investment and strongly consider discontinuation." Catherine felt her blood run cold. Discontinuation. The word hung in the air like a threat. "Richard, the program is generating positive returns. Our CFO can provide detailed financials. I'm less interested in creative accounting than in actual profit. This program is expensive, time-consuming, and frankly it's not what this company should be focusing on. We're a real estate company, not a charity." The debate that followed was heated. Some board members supported Catherine. Others, swayed by Hastings' focus on traditional metrics, seemed uncertain. By the end of the meeting, a vote was scheduled for the following month to determine the program's future. That evening, Catherine called Marcus into her office. She looked shaken. "The board wants to kill the Second Chances program." Marcus felt like he'd been hit. "They can't. What about all the people who are counting on it? The families we've helped. Hastings wants numbers, cold hard financial justification. If we can't prove the program generates measurable value beyond feel-good stories, it's over. Marcus stood up, determination replacing shock. Then let's give him numbers he can't argue with. Over the next 3 weeks Marcus worked harder than he'd ever worked. He reached out to every single person hired through the Second Chances program, all 43 of them. He asked each person to document their contributions to the company. Not feelings, not testimonials, actual measurable impact. Jasmine Williams, a single mother hired as an accounting clerk, had identified billing errors that saved $32,000 annually. Robert Martinez, a veteran who'd struggled to find work after an injury, had developed preventive maintenance protocols that reduced emergency repairs by 40%. Teresa Johnson, who'd left her teaching career to care for her aging mother, had revolutionized tenant relations, reducing turnover by 19% and saving hundreds of thousands in vacancy costs. On and on Marcus compiled evidence. Every program participant had generated measurable value, and when he added it up, the numbers were staggering. For every dollar invested in the program, the company had seen a return of $1.68. But Marcus knew numbers alone wouldn't be enough. Hastings could dispute numbers, call them inflated. Marcus needed something more powerful. He organized a meeting with all the program participants. He explained the situation, explained what was at stake, and he asked if anyone would be willing to speak at the board meeting. Every single hand went up. Destiny, now 9 years old, had been listening from the corner where she was doing homework at Marcus's office. She raised her hand too. "I want to speak too, Daddy. Baby, this is adult business." "No, it's not. It's about families, and I'm part of a family that this program helped. I should get to tell them what it means." Marcus looked at Catherine, who had come to the meeting. She nodded slowly. "She's right. Sometimes the most powerful testimony comes from the people who benefit most." The night before the board meeting, Marcus and Destiny practiced her speech at their apartment. Catherine joined them, bringing dinner and moral support. "What are you going to say, sweetheart?" Catherine asked Destiny. Destiny took a deep breath. "I'm going to tell them about my 7th birthday, about how Daddy couldn't buy me a cake and how sad he looked, about how you helped us and changed everything. And I'm going to tell them about all the other kids who have dads or moms who are trying just as hard as my daddy was, and how the program helps them too." Catherine felt tears sting her eyes. "That's perfect." The board meeting started at 9 in the morning. The boardroom was packed. Catherine, her executive team, Richard Hastings and his supporters, and in the back of the room 43 program participants in professional attire, holding folders of documentation. And beside Marcus, holding his hand tight, was Destiny in her best dress. Hastings presented his case first, slides showing the program's costs, arguments about shareholder value, suggestions that the company was losing focus. Then Catherine stood to present. "Before I share our financial analysis, I'd like you to hear from the people this program has impacted. Not testimonials about gratitude, but presentations on what they've contributed to this company." One by one, program participants came forward. Each one presented concrete data about their contributions, cost savings, process improvements, innovation. By the time they finished, even Hastings looked uncomfortable. Then Marcus stood up, Destiny beside him. "This is my daughter, Destiny. She has something to say." Destiny walked to the front of the room. She looked tiny standing there, but her voice was clear and strong. "My name is Destiny Thompson. I'm 9 years old. 2 years ago, my daddy tried to buy me a birthday cake at a bakery, but his card got declined. He didn't have enough money because he was working really hard at a job that didn't pay enough, even though he's super smart and good at fixing things." She looked at Catherine. "Miss Catherine bought me the cake that day, but she did more than that. She gave my daddy a job here, and that changed everything for us. We don't worry about rent anymore. I can take art classes. Daddy smiles more. We're happy." She turned to look at the board members. "But there are lots of other kids whose moms or dads are trying just as hard as my daddy was. They're smart and talented, but nobody gives them a chance. The Second Chances program gives them that chance. And when you help one family, you're really helping everyone. Because when my daddy got happy and had a good job, he helped other people get jobs too. And those people help other people. It's like Miss Catherine said, it's like ripples in water. One good thing creates more good things." She paused, her voice growing softer. I know you care about money. Adults always care about money, but money is just a tool. It's what you use it for that matters. Miss Catherine uses money to help people, and those people work really hard to earn that money back for the company. That seems like good business to me. The room was completely silent. Destiny walked back to her father, and Marcus put his arm around her shoulders, pride evident on his face. Then Sarah Mitchell, the CFO, presented the comprehensive financial analysis. The Second Chances program had cost $3 million over 2 years, but program participants had generated just over $5 million in measurable value, a positive return of 68%, and that didn't account for intangible benefits like improved company culture, positive media attention, and enhanced community reputation. Catherine stood for her final argument. Richard, you said we're a real estate company, not a charity. You're absolutely right, we're not a charity, we're a business, but we're a business that understands our greatest assets are people. She gestured to the program participants. These 43 employees have proven that investing in people generates returns. They've proven that looking beyond traditional hiring practices reveals exceptional talent. They've proven that when you give people opportunity, they don't just meet expectations, they exceed them. She paused, her eyes moving around the table. 15 years ago, I was a single mother buying a rundown duplex with every penny I had saved. I built this company because people took chances on me, because banks approved loans when they could have said no, because contractors taught me skills when they could have dismissed me. Everything I've built has been possible because someone somewhere along the line chose opportunity over cynicism. Her voice grew stronger. The Second Chances program is not just profitable, though the data shows it clearly is. It's who we are as a company. It's what separates us from competitors who see employees as line items on a spreadsheet. And if this board votes to end it, you're not just eliminating a program, you're abandoning the principles that made Reynolds Properties successful in the first place. The room was silent. Finally, Margaret Harrison, the longest-serving board member and the woman who'd bought Destiny's painting, spoke. I've been on this board since Catherine started this company. I've watched her build something extraordinary from nothing. The data is clear. The Second Chances program is profitable. But more than that, it's right. I move that we not only continue the program but expand it. I second that motion, said another board member. The vote was called. 9 in favor of continuing and expanding the program. 3 opposed. Richard Hastings had lost. When the meeting ended, the program participants who'd been waiting outside erupted in cheers. Destiny was immediately surrounded by grateful people thanking her for her brave speech. Catherine found Marcus in the crowd and pulled him aside. Your daughter just saved a program that will change hundreds of lives. Marcus shook his head, tears in his eyes. No, you started it when you decided to buy a cake for a stranger's kid. Everything that happened today, it all traces back to that moment in the bakery. Maybe, but it took both of us to build it into something that matters. They stood there together, watching Destiny laugh and talk with the people whose lives had been changed, and realized they'd created something bigger than either of them. Not a program, a movement. Proof that compassion and capitalism weren't enemies but partners. 4 years after that day in Mason's Bakery, Marcus stood in the employee lounge at Reynolds Properties, helping to coordinate a holiday party for all company staff. He was now Chief Operating Officer, the second highest position in the organization. At 47 years old, he'd accomplished more than he'd ever imagined possible. But his proudest achievement was standing across the room, helping decorate cookies with some of the younger children of employees. Destiny, now 11 years old, had grown into a confident, creative young woman. Her art had been featured in 2 local galleries. She was thriving academically, socially, emotionally. Catherine appeared beside him, watching Destiny show a 5-year-old how to pipe frosting onto a gingerbread cookie. She's wonderful with children, Catherine observed. She has your patience and kindness, and your confidence and generosity, Marcus replied. We both raised her, Catherine. Don't think I don't know that. It was true. Over the past 4 years, Catherine had become an integral part of their lives. She attended Destiny's art shows and school performances. She helped with homework when Marcus was traveling for work. She taught Destiny about business and leadership. And Marcus had been there for Catherine too, accompanying her to Emily's birthday remembrance every year, helping her gradually open her heart to joy again.
Their relationship was hard to define. Not romantic, though others sometimes assumed, more than friendship. Something like family, chosen and cherished. "I have news," Catherine said. "The Second Chances program just received recognition from the National Association of Business Leadership. They want to profile us as a model for corporate social responsibility, and they want to interview you and Destiny as the faces of the program." Marcus smiled. "4 years ago, I was turned down for a credit limit increase at the grocery store. Now I'm being interviewed about business leadership. Life is strange." "Life is good," Catherine corrected. "You've helped expand the program to include 89 people. 89 families who are stable now because you believed in them. Because you believed in me first." Across the room, Destiny finished helping the little boy with his cookie and walked over to join them. "The cookies are almost done. Can we do the gift exchange soon?" The company had a tradition of employees drawing names and exchanging small gifts. Destiny had been included since she was frequently at the office after school. "Soon," Catherine promised, "but first I have something for both of you." She pulled out 2 small wrapped boxes. "This isn't your official gift exchange present. This is something else." Marcus and Destiny opened their boxes. Inside were matching necklaces, delicate silver chains with small pendants. Marcus's pendant was the letter D. Destiny's was the letter E, D for Destiny, Catherine explained, her voice thick with emotion, and E for Emily. "My 2 girls, the one I lost and the one I found." Destiny immediately put on her necklace, then hugged Catherine tight. "I love it, I'll wear it forever." Marcus put his hand over his pendant, feeling the cool metal warm against his palm. "Catherine, this means more than you know. It means everything to me," she said softly. 4 years ago, I was drowning in grief, going through the motions of living without really being alive. Then I saw a father and daughter in a bakery, and something inside me woke up. You 2 brought me back to life, gave me purpose again, a family again." Later that evening, after the party wound down and most employees had left, the 3 of them sat in Catherine's office, looking out at the Dallas skyline twinkling with Christmas lights. "Can I ask you both something?" Destiny said. "I'm doing a school project about defining moments, times when one decision changed everything. What would you say your defining moment was?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "The moment I decided to swallow my pride and accept help." "When you bought that cake, Catherine, my first instinct was to refuse, to walk away and figure it out myself. But I looked at Destiny, and I knew she deserved better than my pride. Accepting help was the hardest and best decision I ever made." Catherine thought for a moment. "Mine was deciding to step forward instead of looking away. I could have sat at that table, felt bad for you and done nothing. That would have been easier. But something in me refused to accept that this little girl shouldn't have a birthday cake. That one decision to act instead of just feel, that changed my entire life." Destiny nodded seriously. "Mine was deciding to hug you in the bakery. I know I was only 7, but I remember making a choice. You looked sad when you were talking to Daddy, and I thought, this lady needs a hug, so I gave you one. And then we all became family." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "You're absolutely right, that hug did change everything." They sat quietly for a moment, each reflecting on how a series of small decisions, a choice to help, a choice to accept help, a choice to show affection to a stranger, had woven their lives together. "You know what I think," Destiny said. "I think magic is real, not like fairy tale magic, but real magic. When people choose kindness, that's magic. It creates things that shouldn't be possible." Marcus pulled his daughter close. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best," she said, looking between her father and Catherine. "From both of you." Epilogue 6 years later, Marcus Thompson stood at a podium in the Dallas Convention Center ballroom, looking out at a crowd of over 500 people. At 49 years old, he was addressing the annual Second Chances program celebration, now in its 6th year. The program had grown beyond anyone's wildest dreams. 173 people had been hired through it. Retention rates remained at 96%. Program participants had generated over $14 million in measurable value for Reynolds Properties, and the model had been replicated by 32 companies across the country. But more than the numbers, the program had created a community. Program participants stayed connected, supported each other, and paid forward the opportunities they'd received. Marcus looked out at the crowd and began his speech. 6 years ago I stood in a bakery with my 7-year-old daughter, unable to afford her birthday cake. I was a mechanic barely surviving, watching my daughter's hope dim because I couldn't give her something as simple as a chocolate cake with rainbow sprinkles. In that moment, I felt like the biggest failure in the world. He paused, emotion thick in his throat. Then a stranger stepped forward. Catherine Reynolds, sitting right here in the front row, bought that cake. But more importantly, she saw me. Not my poverty, not my circumstances. Me, my potential, my determination, my love for my daughter, and she decided I deserved a chance. Marcus looked directly at Catherine, who was wiping tears from her eyes. Beside her sat Destiny, now 13 years old, beautiful and confident, wearing the necklace Catherine had given her years ago. That single act of kindness changed my life. It changed Destiny's life. And through the Second Chances program, it's changed 173 lives and counting. Because Catherine taught us all a fundamental truth. Talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. And when you give people opportunity, they don't just meet expectations, they shatter them. The crowd applauded. Marcus continued, sharing stories of program participants who'd gone on to do extraordinary things. Jasmine Williams, now Director of Finance. Robert Martinez, overseeing property management across 3 states. Teresa Johnson, running the National Tenant Services Division. Darius Coleman, Chief Information Officer. These aren't feel-good stories, Marcus emphasized. These are business success stories, proof that investing in people generates returns in every measurable way. But more than that, they're human stories. Stories of dignity restored, of potential realized, of families stabilized. He looked at Destiny, who smiled encouragingly. My daughter is here today. 6 years ago she was a 7-year-old who couldn't have a birthday cake. Today she's a 13-year-old artist whose work has been displayed in galleries, a straight-A student, and the most compassionate person I know. That transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened because someone believed we deserved better. And it happened because we worked hard to prove that belief was justified. He turned back to Catherine. Catherine, you've built an empire. Reynolds Properties is worth over $2 billion. You've created thousands of jobs. You've developed properties across the country. But your greatest legacy isn't measured in dollars or square footage. It's measured in changed lives. In children who grew up with stability. In parents who regained their dignity. In communities that became stronger because you invested in the people who lived there. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Catherine stood and walked to the podium. Marcus embraced her. This woman who'd become so much more than a boss or friend. She'd become family. Catherine took the microphone, her voice steady despite her tears. Marcus says I changed his life. But the truth is, he changed mine. 6 years ago, I was running a successful company but living an empty life. I'd spent 5 years trying to recover from losing my daughter Emily, and nothing worked. Not success, not money, not any of it. She looked out at the crowd. Then I saw a little girl in a paper crown, and a father who loved her so much he was willing to swallow his pride and accept help when he needed it. And I realized that I couldn't bring Emily back, but I could honor her memory by helping other children have the lives they deserved. That realization saved me. It gave me purpose. It made all the success actually mean something. She gestured to Marcus and Destiny. These two didn't just change my life. They taught me how to live again. How to open my heart again. How to believe that kindness matters and that one moment of compassion can create enormous ripples. After the ceremony, as people mingled and shared stories, the 3 of them found a quiet corner. You know what's funny? Destiny said. My birthday is next week. I'll be 14. And I was thinking, what should I wish for when I blow out the candles? What did you decide? Catherine asked. Nothing, because everything I wished for 6 years ago already came true. I wished for Daddy to be happy and not sad anymore. And he is. I wished for us to be okay. And we're more than okay. So this year, I'm going to wish for other kids. For other families who need what we got. Marcus felt his throat tighten. That's beautiful, baby girl. Besides, Destiny added with a grin, we should probably go back to that same bakery for my birthday cake. For tradition, Catherine laughed. Absolutely. And this time, we'll all go together, as a family. As they stood there watching the celebration continue around them, they represented something powerful, proof that kindness creates miracles, that giving someone a chance can change generations, that family isn't always about blood but about choice and love, and showing up for each other. 6 years ago, Marcus couldn't afford a $38 cake. Today he'd helped create a program that generated millions in value. But more importantly, he'd helped create a community built on second chances and realized potential. And it had all started with a woman who chose to step forward instead of looking away, a man who chose to accept help instead of letting pride destroy him, and a little girl whose hug reminded them both that connection matters more than anything. Later that evening, as Marcus tucked Destiny into bed, even though she insisted she was too old for tucking in, she looked at him seriously. "Daddy, do you ever think about what would have happened if Miss Catherine hadn't been in that bakery that day?" Marcus considered the question. "Sometimes, but then I remember something wise someone once told me. Sometimes, bad things happen so good things can happen later. Maybe everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to." "I like that," Destiny said. "It means even when things are hard, they might be hard for a reason, to get us to where we're supposed to be." "Exactly, Daddy. I love our family, even though it's not like other families." "Me too, baby. Me too." As Marcus turned off her light and walked toward the door, Destiny called out one more time. "And Daddy, thank you for being brave enough to let Miss Catherine help us. I know it was hard for you." Marcus smiled in the darkness. "You're welcome, sweetheart. And thank you for giving her that hug. You saw what she needed before any of us did." The next week, on Destiny's 14th birthday, the three of them walked into Mason's bakery together. The same bakery where everything had started 6 years earlier. Jenny, the same cashier who'd been there that day, recognized them immediately. "Oh my goodness, I remember you. The little girl with the paper crown. Look how much you've grown." Destiny grinned. "I'm back for another cake. Chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. Coming right up." And this time, Jenny smiled. "It's on the house. What you all have done with that Second Chances program, helping all those families, it's all over the news. This cake is the least we can do." Catherine shook her head. "That's kind, but we'll pay full price, because kindness shouldn't be free. It should be celebrated and supported." As they walked out with Destiny's cake, Marcus looked at the woman and girl beside him and felt overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude for a moment of compassion that had changed everything. Gratitude for second chances. Gratitude for family, however unconventionally it had formed. "What are you going to wish for?" Catherine asked Destiny as they walked to the car. Destiny smiled mysteriously. "I'm going to wish that somewhere in Dallas right now, there's another dad and another kid who are struggling. And I'm going to wish that they meet someone like you, Miss Catherine. Someone who will see them and help them. Because everyone deserves a birthday cake. And everyone deserves a second chance." Catherine reached out and took both their hands. "That's a perfect wish, sweetheart. And you know what? I think it's already coming true. Because that's how kindness works. It multiplies, it spreads. One act of compassion creates ripples that touch lives in ways we can't always see or measure. But the impact is real. The change is permanent, and the world becomes just a little bit better because someone chose to step forward instead of looking away."
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.